think at the end of the last video I'd got to the point where all of the yard track was down and I was about to start on all the electrics and motors for the sets of points. I still have a cold. I've spent the last couple of evenings working on that, so the point motors are underneath, all of the dropper cables for the yard lines are now connected to the bus, and the frog cables are connected up. I've also, as I went along, I've connected up the servos to the PWM boards and done some configuration work on them just so that they're moving just about in the right space for the points. So now it's a case of switching everything on and seeing first of all whether there is track power to all the lines. Then I need to check the frog polarity, make sure the frogs have power and the correct polarity. So I'm just going to do a quick bit of track testing before I actually try running any trains. First of all, if I just hold the pickup on a bit of track I know is live because it's the old bit of track that's been running through. With track power on, I'm getting 4.94, is that volts if it's on that setting? Anyway, around 5. And I know if I just put it on a piece of dead track, say this, I get very little response at all if I just put it on an isolated bit of track. So I know both these rails are getting a response, but that's to be expected because that's track that was in and running before. So what I need to do now is just test each of the rails on the new lines to make sure that that's got a similar voltage. And that's good, that's responding, that's one. Another good one there. Yeah. 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 And yeah, so at least I know at this end, in fact there's one here as well. At this end, all of the track is live, and that's tested after the isolating fish plates as well, so I know that there's power coming from over that direction somewhere. It's also worth checking the frogs. This one is, there we go, there's definitely something there. Is this rail dead? No, we've got something now. I think that might just be dirty track. It definitely needs to be looked at. It's not, no, it is alive, it is responding, but it looks like we've got particularly dirty track here. But it's live anyway. This one, yeah, that frog's alive. And this one, yeah, and yeah. I've got all of the yard lines connected up and running now, and it doesn't look like there are any issues. It's good to have this spare storage now. There's still a good few trains I haven't actually taken out of their boxes yet and run on this layout, so I'm going to start getting them all added. This is the new class 91 just coming here. Gets now had a chance to run in and is dragging a few scruffy Mark IVs around. I'm pleased with the amount of storage available as well. This is the class 43, the one that's static. Is just about the longest train that will run. I think it's got 7, full-size Mark III coaches, and then obviously an engine at each end. And it's pretty comfortably parked at the end of this lane. There's lots of clearance, it's not going to get in anything's way. And if I come down to this end, there's still a really decent amount of space on there to shove a DMU quite comfortably, I should think, on there, because they don't, the good thing about the class 43s is there's no coupling hook on the front, so I can shunt something right up to its nose and not be worried about it coming away coupled up. Although that's the longest lane, I think, just about. The one, maybe the third one, that one, is the shortest, and that would still, considering there's no other train as long as this one. I think I'd still get a DMU shoved on the end of whatever ended up in there as well. So having loaded up all the storage lines for the clockwise line with trains, I've really realised how convenient and useful it is. The yard on the last layout was just a one-way thing, and so everything either had to reverse in or reverse out, which was fine for a lot of them, but a nightmare for derailments with others, like the Mark IVs. I mean, they manage to derail going forward, but they're terrible when they're going backwards. So it's incredibly convenient to have just some easy turnouts off the main line where stuff can just go in and park. I've really appreciated that. So at the minute, the storage lines are purely for the clockwise line, so I've started now on the anti-clockwise line, which comes around here. It looks like there's only going to be 4 that fit in, but that's comfortably enough. I'm trying to leave, because 5 would be a squash and 4 is comfortable, I'm trying to leave a couple of lines with sort of finger room on the far side, so that I can easily get stuff on and off the layout when I'm switching. If I end up with more trains than storage lines, which I don't have at the minute, but if I do end up with that at some point, these will be easy to, the easiest possible way to get stuff on and off the layout. Something I do struggle with and find it really quite easy to go off with is keeping track straight. Even straight track, I struggle to keep it straight, because it's not just about keeping it straight, it's about keeping it parallel as well. And then obviously there's more challenges with flexi track, like that piece up at the top. So what I'm doing is once I'm established where this set of points is going to be and where this track comes off, and this is screwed down now, I'm just locking a tape measure so that the edge of the tape measure is touching the edge of the sleepers, and the edge of the tape measures up against the edge of the baseboard, and then I can just shove the track as I need to all the way along to make sure that it's at least exactly parallel to the edge of the baseboard, which is machine cut, so I have to trust it. And it seems to be working so far. Similarly to how it worked out with the other line, the clockwise line, I'm not going to get a fully symmetrical set of yard lines, because with them kind of coming out into the parallelogram down there, it would be nice to complete the parallelogram here and have where they merge out of the bottom line at the bottom, have them all merge into the top line at the top. But this turnout is almost turned, it's almost at kind of the right angle to come along here. So if I wanted this track to meet the high track, I'd have to kind of turn it left a bit and then right, which I don't fancy doing. I like to do it with that bit of track over there, and I don't particularly like it. So the simple solution, how I did it on that one as well, is this line will have to come out and meet the second line up, which means the top one will be a bit of a bus stop and then merge back in again, but I'll merge it back in because it's the last line to start because of the order of the points. I'll still make it the first line here to come out, so I'll put that set of points there. That'll go off and do the bit of bus stop. Then we've got another set of points there that'll go directly into the second line, and then the bottom two do merge into the middle one in the kind of the opposite direction of what they do down there. I am still using old track from the last layout, getting very quickly towards the last of it, which is convenient because this is pretty much the last of the track that needs to go down on this layer, and the top layer will be all scenic and we'll get new track. But just for my own peace of mind with these old pieces of track, I'm doing little bits of continuity testing between the tracks, because not every piece of track has got a dropper on it. So none of these tracks, although some of them have droppers on them, none of the droppers are connected to anything. So if I get continuity between two pieces of rail like here, the only possible way that there is continuity between those pieces of rail is if the fish plate is making contact, and there are bits of dirty track, so it's not always going to sound brilliant, but as long as I'm getting some kind of beep, I'm happy. And just to prove the point, there are insulating joiners on a few of these rails here, and I would be worried obviously if I got continuity between any of them, but they're all dead. That's the track all fastened down now and connected up. I still need to clean it because it's still the stuff that came off the old layout, but apart from that, just 6 more point motors to build and get mounted, connected up underneath, connect up droppers, connect up frog wires, and that should be track for the lower deck complete. I now have those 3 servo motors, point motors on each end, wired into their respective PWM boards and Arduinos now. The only complication that I encountered was a bit of bad luck, or maybe bad planning, however you want to look at it, is each of these ends now has 9 sets of points on it, but the board underneath only has capacity for managing 8 motors. So I was kind of faced with a choice of either winging it, which I'll come back to because that's what I did, or adding another PWM driver board and another relay. Although you can get relay boards with fewer than 8 relays on them, but still that seemed wasteful. So what I've done is I've winged it in that this board is full, the board at the other end is full, but there is a board in the middle that has only 4 motors attached to it, because that's for that turnout at the top there. So I've ended up crimping and pulling a very long extension cable that starts there and runs down the back and goes to a board that's probably not quite visible, just there, which isn't halfway, so that was the longest wire. So that board down there, that Arduino board, runs 2 PWM boards, and because it runs the PWM board that I've added, how many? 2 sets of points at the far end have gone into the very far board. 1 set of points at the far end have gone into that board that's just shining a light there, and 1 port on that board also has this cable running to this motor here, whereas the first 2 are plugged into this Arduino here. So the effect that's going to have on the code is that this is the code for the node number 1, which is the only Arduino I currently have that has 2 PWM boards on it. The first PWM board on this Arduino is the one that controls the turnouts at the top of the incline, where a train can cross from the incline to the top deck when the top deck's there, and that's these 4 here. And the second board on this Arduino is the one that controls these turnouts up here and a couple that are over there, and there are 9 of those. So it's got to full capacity on 8, and then the 9th turnout has an extension cable on it that takes it to the PWM driver board that has the 4 turnouts in the middle plugged in. At the other end there's just a single Arduino with a single PWM board, but that is now full with, and again there are 9 turnouts down at that end as well. So the 9th turnout that doesn't have capacity on the board attached to the Arduino that's down there, that's the one that has a big long extension cable coming, and that is now the 6th turnout attached to the first board on this Arduino. So I just need to remember what I've done there, because it's going to affect the ID numbers that I assign to these turnouts in JMRI. My 6 new point motors are now installed and tested, configured as far as I can be, and added to the scripts that run on the 2 respective Arduinos. So now it's a case of adding them into JMRI
So I need to open my turnouts table. Now this is where I need to bear in mind that for each corner, 2 of the turnouts are attached to one PWM board and one of the turnouts is attached to another PWM board. And just to make it a little bit more complicated, in the second corner, the third turnout is actually attached to a completely different Arduino. So I'm going to go with the third corner to start with because that's slightly easier. I kind of, just for naming conventions, I've got my corners numbered in clockwise. So corner 3 is what I'm going to start with. So I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to work out what numbers I'm at corner 3. So this is where corner 3 is. Oh no, that's corner 2. This is where corner 3 is. So it's on node 3. So 3001, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the next last two servo motors, point motors, to be attached to this board are going to be 3007, 3008. So let's try and add them. (3007), and I'm going to try and give it a sensible name. So let's say corner 3, anti-clockwise line, yard 1. And hopefully when I click that, it should make a noise. Good start. Next one should be easier. Just change the 7 to an 8, and the 1 to a 2. Create that one. And again, I should hear a noise. Now is where it gets more complicated. The third turnout in this set of 3 is attached to a completely different board. In fact, I'll leave this one to last because it's the last one in sequence. So I'm now going to go for corner 2 and work out again the last 2 on that board are going to be 1015 and 1016 because they come in after these 3. Is that a 1? It will be 1 because it's node 1. So 1015, and this is corner 2, still the anti-clockwise line, yard 1. Again, I should be able to hear something wherever it's gone. Yeah, there's something moving down at the far corner. Next one is in sequence. So 16. This is going to be same corner, same line, but yard 2. Getting a noise. So now we're getting to the third set of points in each of these corners, which is where I ran out of ports on the first board and kind of sneaked some from here. So the next one, the third one in corner 2, I know that I added next to this one, so that's going to be 1005, and the numbering is to do with that index modifier that I explained in the video where I explained the code that I'd rewritten, just so they can all have unique numbers. But anyway, so this is going to be 1005. And this is going to be corner 2, anti-clockwise, yard 3. And I'm hearing it. So now I'm back to corner 3 because that's the last one that I put in. So, but I still want to be sequential here. So 1006. But this is corner 3, anti-clockwise, yard, set of points number 3. which has gone to here. Excellent, so that's all of my new sets of points added into CMRI now. So it's very important, because CMRI doesn't do it for me, to save. I've now got the track voltage tested, and I'm doing some running testing with a class 40 that's round the other side at the moment, but will be on its way around. It's reminded me, doing this testing, how confusing I find it. I've added 3 sets of points on that end, which interact with another set of points down that end that determine whether the train's coming into the yard or not, or the loco in this case. And then there's another 3 new sets of points here that it's about to make its way over, and then the 4th one that again puts it back onto what's effectively the main line. As it's coming around, if I want to test each different line, and it's going to be the same when I'm actually running or parking trains, I need to decide which line it's going on. I need to work out the route from the main line. I need to make sure the main line is coming into the yard. Then I need to work out what its path needs to be through each set of points into whichever line, and then, perhaps not the case when I'm actually parking up a train, but most of the time, also make sure that the points are configured at the other end so that it can run straight through, and I'm not going to get short when it hits a incorrectly set turnout. And although it's a little bit easier in this case because I can walk, I've got my list here of points, and so I can scroll through them and they're all correctly the thrown and closed values are correct on there. So I can walk around, I can do it, but I've got to walk from one end to the other while the train's running. I've got to work out where I am. I've got to scroll through, remember which one of the strangely named points it is, and then set them all. And the chances are sometimes I'm going to make a mistake as well. So that's where routes come in. And what routes are in JMRI is collecting up a collection of sets of points into a group and configuring how those sets of points should be set. The result being you can have one click, one tap on the screen, and the route that you've configured will be set. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a route for each of these storage lines to get a train from the main line into the yard, into the line that I want it to be on, and have an exit route set as well, just in case I want to run it straight through. For each route that I set up in JMRI, I only need to include or tag the sets of points that the train is actually going to run through for my little route. So my route is going to start here, which is the turnout from the main line into the yard. So that's corner 3 curved 1, I think. I'll know it when I see it. And I'm going to set this, the lowest line, as line 1 in this anti-clockwise yard. So I'm also going to need this set of points, which is corner 3 yard 1, because they're numbered increasingly going inwards. I don't need to bother about these two for this route, because this, when it's set to straight on, will send me off down where I need to be. And down at the other end for line 1, I'm a little bit more involved here, because I'm going to go through every set of points. So number 3 again, because they're numbered going inwards. So this is number 3 and it needs to be closed. This is number 2 and it needs to be thrown. This is number 1 and it needs to be closed. And this is corner 2 curved 1 and it needs to be thrown. See if I can remember all that and put it into a route. So here I'm back at the computer at the JMRI terminal, and I'm going to go into Tools, Tables, Routes. This will display all of the routes that I've set so far. I've set some here for the yard lines that I did previously for the clockwise direction. So I'm now going to add one for the anti-clockwise and try and keep the naming convention the same. So add one and go for yard anti-clockwise line 1 lowest, which is reasonably descriptive as well, which is handy. So now I need to remember which sets of points I need to include. So I definitely need corner 2 curved 1, that's the one that turns from the main line into the yard, and that needs to be thrown. The thrown or closed values doesn't matter for anything that's not ticked because it's not included in the route. So, and then I've got corner 2 anti-clockwise, yard 1 and yard 2. So they're the ones down there. I know they both need to be included, and I can't remember what they were meant to be set at, so I'm going to have to go and have another look. And I need those two as well, although I seem to be missing. Am I missing 2, or are they listed? Ah, of course, they've got different IDs, so they're listed elsewhere. So I've now got too many ticked because I've got myself confused. So I'm going to go and check which of these, let's start with corner 3 because I'm nearest. Corner 3, 1 and 2, which are close by. 1, oh yeah, this is the end where, this is the end where 1 needs to be closed, and that will take the train down the bottom line without anything else needing to be set on corner 3. On corner 2, I think 1 needed to be closed and the next 2 both needed to be thrown. So I need corner 2, yard 3, that doesn't need to be on, and in fact this needs to be closed because it's straight on. So at least I only have to set this up once and then it's just a button press. So I'm quickly going to double check that I've got those right. So I've got down in corner 2, 3 is closed, 2 is open, 1 is closed. Three is closed, 2 is open, 1 is closed. To the naked eye that looks correct, so I'm going to create this route. Now testing all, and I've created all of the lines. So first one I'm going to do is I'm going to set it to yard line 1, which is the lowest, which is the very left hand side, just coming down off the bottom of the screen. That sounds good. Number 2, which should just be the nearest set of points moving, I think. And a few getting set down at the other end. Line 3, which will be the straight on effectively down roughly the middle of the screen. Good. And then line 4, which is the bus stop on effectively, so I'd expect the first set of points to go thrown. There they go. And then if I set to the main through, nothing near side should change, but the very far ones that might not quite be visible on the screen should go to closed. And here we are at the opposite end, so this is corner 3 that it's facing now. The rightmost line is line 1, and then you 2, 3, and you can't really see 4, but you can see the set of points that are leading to it. So it's currently set, as I left it in the other corner, to the main line, and whatever on the near side points it was set to before, I can't remember. So I'll set it to line 1. Couple changed behind me, but that's set. The most important one there is the straight on setting for the straight on rightmost track as the screen sees it, and line 2, which is the next one up, so second from the right. So yeah, number 1 set to throne to bring the train upwards, and then 2 set to throne as well to bring it down this second rightmost. And let's go for line 3. So all that's done is set the near side, the near closest one to the camera, to throne, which is correct, to take it down the third line. And line 4 has set that one back so that line 4 is the leftmost one, and that would go down there. And again, if I then set it to the main through, the only 2 that'll change are the 2 curved ones. And that's it. I currently have the Class 91 Swallow running round on what is the anti-clockwise line, main line, which is the nearest one to the parked train, so it's just about to come through now. What I'm going to try and do is, once it's passed through the set of points behind me, I'm going to set the route to bring it in and park it on the next line along, which is yard line 4. I should be able to do that with just one button press now, without having to go down the far side, the far end, and check what's changed and what I need to change it to. So it's now cleared that line. I'll try and get the tablet in front of the camera, which isn't easy because the camera's low. I have to go a bit sideways, I think. So I'm going to set, and I'm going to have to do it quickly, line 4 highest, which looks like that one. And let's see what it does. I think I hit the right one. I'm going to hit it again now just to make sure. Get my throttle back to slow the train down. And there we go, line 4. Does have a bit of a sudden stop about it. I'm going to have a look at that. So as far as track work and point motors and relays and all that configuration stuff goes for the lower deck, that's everything done really. There's no more track to go down and no more lines to go down. Everything seems to be really working pretty well, better than I could have hoped really. Nothing's derailing, any train can go through any line comfortably. I love the convenience of having not just the yard lines themselves, but how easy it is with the routes to just say, right, this train's coming round, I want it to go into line 3 and park, and it's just one tap on the screen and in it goes. I don't have to follow the route through with my eyes. I don't have to work out which set of points at this end needs to be open and closed and which sets of points at the other end needs to be open and closed. It just, one tap and in it goes to where it's supposed to go, which is good for people like me who don't really concentrate and were error prone, and certainly with those physical panels with the DP double throw, double something switches on the last layout. I made so many mistakes all the time that with Electro Frog especially, just soon means you're going to get a short circuit because a train's headed onto a set of points that should have been open and is closed. So it'll be a while before I add any more track. I'm not going straight on the upper deck. It's now about, one of the first things I need to start getting done is block detection. There's a line that goes to the left underneath that upper deck bit that I can't see. So it would be handy if I knew if there was something occupying it rather than guessed. So a lot on different types of electronics, I think, from this point onwards, and I play with scenery as well. I think I'm ready, especially with this yard area, just to see what I can do with it. But for the time being, I'm just going to enjoy being able to park a train, start a different train, park that one, and alternate what I have got easily on the layout.